Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today I am putting the spotlight on this. We have Masters of the Universe, Sorceress, the heroic guardian of Castle Grayskull. So, even though it's 2021, this figure is new for 2022. Just like all the Origins figures, this is modern posing, retro play. Yeah, so I'm excited to check out this figure. This is the second version of the Sorceress that we've gotten so far. The first release of Sorceress we got with she came bundled with Castle Grayskull, and that one was the all white colored Sorceress, whereas this is Sorceress in her more so familiar colors that, if you grew up on the 80s cartoon and the Filmation cartoon, this is the Sorceress you'll recognize. So yeah, I'm excited to check this out. The figure looks great on the card. From a distance, immediately when you see this, you can tell right away, hey, this is the Sorceress. She's in her trademark colors now. Initially, I was kind of like this content with just having the all-white Sorceress that came with Castle Grayskull. I think for me at the time, I was just kind of fooling myself into believing that, I'm just going to be happy with that, because in the back of my head, I thought I'd never find this like out in the wild. It's easy for me to like actually just, go online and order it, but I'm one of those people that I do enjoy the hunt. And I know people will say, you go on the hunt, you spend a lot of money on gas and the time it takes driving around and this and that. But there's certain days of the week, like if I have a day off, I don't mind doing the hunt. I don't mind just getting in my car to get away from the rest of the world, get away from my work and, my other responsibilities, just for a little bit, maybe for an hour or two, just to like drive around, hit up different stores and just, see what's out there. It's time for me to spend in my car and like lose myself and just forget about my troubles. So even though, you have the immediacy and the convenience of ordering stuff online, for me, the experience of just being able to just hang out in the car, or walk around the mall, or just do a little bit of shopping, that's kind of therapeutic in its own self. So for me, it's always nice to find stuff out in the wild. And when I found this out in the wild, it was a big surprise. I didn't think I'd see it at my local store as early as I did, but I was just fortunate enough to see it on the shelf, and immediately I picked it up. So we're gonna take a look at the Sorceress. On the back, really cool illustration. Imbued with magical abilities from the pool of power, the wise Sorceress watches over Eternia for when it needs He-Man for protection. And this is, for me, I think this is one of the cooler illustrations. Like all the illustrations we've gotten, they're always rendered beautifully and they're amazing. But I kind of like this one. This kind of tells for me the complete story of like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. You have the Sorceress here, and then you have He-Man, and over here you kind of have this vision of Grayskull being attacked by the Horde. I don't know, it's kind of neat, and I don't know, I just dig it a lot. It looks awesome. So we are modernizing and celebrating the original 80s Masters of the Universe action figures. So this one, it looks like she retains all the play features from the previous release that we got with Grayskull. Her wings are articulated. She's highly posable. Other figures in this wave, once again, we're getting He-Man and Skeletor. So if you haven't gotten a He-Man or a Skeletor yet, now's your chance. They've been on the shelves for a couple of years now, and especially Skeletor. I always see Skeletor. There's Buzz-Off, there's Stratos, and then there's Jitsu. Alright, so I also picked up Jitsu when I saw Sorceress. I saw Stratos, but in all honesty, I don't feel I need this Stratos. I'm perfectly happy with this to play plain, completely gray one. This weird flesh-colored Stratos looks very naked to me, and I don't know what's wrong. I can't pull the trigger on this guy. I did not see Buzz-Off. Buzz-Off is a figure I do want. I do have the Super 7 one, and I love that figure a lot. So for me, if I could get the Origins one, that'd make my day. I think that looks great. And a quick shout out to my buddy JC. He taught me how to open up these boxes properly. For the longest time, I would just like manhandle these and rip them off. But as he pointed out to me, just stick your thumb between the hole in the cardboard and you just lift up and it comes off pretty clean. So if JC's watching, thanks JC for that tidbit. Alright, so we get another comic, Masters of the Universe, Challenge of Jitsu. And I love these things, and I say this all the time, it's ironic. I'm a big comic book guy. Every Wednesday I'm downloading all my comics from Comixology. It used to be back in the day before the pandemic. I used to go to the actual like real comic book shop and buy my comic books, but after the pandemic started, I just go to Comixology and get my books. So it's ironic because I'm a big comic book guy. I probably read anywhere between 30 to 50 comic books a month. But at the same time, I can't be bothered to read these small little Masters of the Universe mini comics. I don't know. I think there's something wrong with me. But I figure one day I'm just going to just sit down and pull them all out and just read them all. Or I could just read them on this YouTube channel. I don't know. This one's neat. We had the Sorceress. I don't know. It looks pretty fun. I always figured these are a tease, too, for some of the stuff we might get in the future, like other characters or vehicles. So, yeah, really, really fun bonus that we get these little comic books. And like the other Origins figures, we get this little sheet of paper that details all the removable parts. Her head, her arms. She detaches at the waist. Her boots come off. And even though they don't talk about it here, you could submerge the lower torso in like hot water. It'll soften up the legs, and you can remove the thighs from the actual lower torso. So you can actually even do a full leg swap if you wanted to. But just err on the side of caution because you don't want to burn yourself. We have her staff on the back. And if you watched my videos before, I don't know how to take the plastic off properly. So, oh wait, maybe this slides out. Does this slide out? No, it doesn't. All right, let's cut this up. Take it out. All right, so we have our staff. All right, so here we have the Sorceress. So first impressions of the figure. For me, it's like about time. That was my first thought that crossed my mind. It's like it's about time that I finally have like a version of the Sorceress that could be like stoked on. Like I didn't have problems with the white one that came with Grayskull, and like I said, for a long period of time, I kind of just made peace with myself and this thought, all right, I'm just gonna live with this. But the fact that I found this one in the wild, I'm very stoked. These wings feel like they might be a different plastic. I had issues with the one I got with Grayskull. Like my wing, one of the wings wouldn't go out all the way, but this one seems like it's all right. So yeah, the color scheme's great. Let's just take a look at it. So she kind of has that eagle or hawk head. It's covered in white with the blue beak. Her wings are orange. She has the blue sleeves, the white bodysuit, blue boots with the white tops on the back. Really nice gradient transitioning from the blue to the orange in the feathers. Yeah, this is the Sorceress. This is the Sorceress I grew up on. I love that this figure has the new knees. So if you go way back when to like some of my early YouTube videos, I review a Becky Lynch figure that belongs to the Masters of the WWE Universe line. And I think I talked about how the one thing I hated about the Origins figures and the WWE figures is that I hated the kneecaps. There was something, it just looked off. The legs didn't look natural. and especially when he bent them. And I don't keep up to date with all the Masters of the Universe news. I don't go to the news groups. I never go to the websites. For me, all I know about Masters is what I see on the shelves. I don't follow toys as closely as I used to on the internet anymore. So when I saw some of these figures with the updated knees, it blew my mind. I'm like, oh my god, they actually took the time out and fixed something that I thought was very problematic from an aesthetic point of view. So it's great that they finally gave us corrected knees on the female figures, and I think it looks great. The original Sorceress figure, I believe, goes for a lot of money. I'm not sure how much the Classics figures go for, and with like the 2000X line, I don't think we actually got a Sorceress figure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only thing we got was maybe like a statue that was produced by NECA in collaboration with the Four Horsemen, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, I'm stoked on getting this Sorceress figure. She looks beautiful. Her staff looks great. It kind of reminds me of the Staff of Ra from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Looks cool. But yeah, the figure is really, really awesome. Not much to say. I mean, it's the same kind of body we've gotten before with the female figures. In terms of articulation, her head rotates. It's capable of rotating, but it won't, just because if you look here, the headdress drapes over the back of the wings and it slots over. So you can't, even though it's articulated, it's really restricted. You can't turn it completely. You can kind of just jostle it around. Same with looking up and down. It's not going to move that much just because the way this headdress is arranged. What I felt they should have done is they should have just lost this part here, or if you're a customizer and you don't mind modifying your figure, I'm sure you could just cut this off, this back part, and allow for greater range of motion. But I'd kind of suggest not doing that unless you're like really good with like an X-Acto blade and you're 100% sure you could get a nice clean cut that you'll be happy with. Her arms are articulated, they rotate and they go out. She has elbow bend, elbow swivel, her wrist articulated, waist articulation. She could kick up, she could kick out, boot swivel, ankle articulation. Yeah, so she runs the gamut of like all the stuff you'd expect from like a Origins figure. I think my boots are on backwards. I think. Right, I don't know which side is supposed to be facing out and which is supposed to be facing back. Alright, so that's clearly backwards. Yeah, so my one boot was on backwards. Because you want the ankles on the outside of the leg. You don't want the ankles on the inside. Just so her legs are a little bit more bowed out towards the bottom. Alright, so since we're on the subject of Sorceress, let's pull out the Sorceress we got from Castle Grayskull. Right, so here's the Sorceress I got from Castle Grayskull. Right, so for some reason this Sorceress... Oh wait, I stand corrected. Okay, when her wings are up, you're not going to be able to turn her head. When her wings are down, then you could rotate her head. So the one issue I had with my Sorceress, it might have been just me, but this wing goes all the way out, and it doesn't hold very well. Unlike this, these wings will actually go out and hold in position. But the one I got with Grayskull, the wings go out. This one's kind of floppy, doesn't really hold on. This one doesn't, it goes up, but it feels like it's stuck or something. And I'm just going to take a look at the back, try to figure out why it's doing that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Oh, shoot. Okay, so there was a manufacturing error on my one wing. So the pin here that holds the wing in place, it was never properly, if you look here, the pin was never placed into the hole directly. Whoever manufactured this, they placed it off to the side. So it was pinned incorrectly. So that's why I was having issues with the wing. As you can see here, it dug a hole into the other part of the plastic. So my figure was defective. And even though it's making my OCD crazy, I'm not going to go out and spend 80 bucks on another Grayskull just to get this figure. Yeah, so the pin was misaligned even on the wing. Yeah, as you can see here, they really effed up. So I'm going to have to correct that, and I can do that now, actually. So yeah, so that's the reason why my wing was all messed up. So as you can see here, when they put the pin into the back, they missed the hole, and then it went off to the side. But for me, it's not enough. It's making my OCD crazy, but at the same time, like I said, I'm not going to hunt down this figure on eBay and pay like 50 bucks for it or buy another Grayskull just for this figure. Although, to be honest, I have been contemplating getting another Grayskull just to paint it up and customizing it, but space-wise, I don't have room for another Grayskull. And, you know, I really shouldn't be spending that kind of money right now, so. Yeah, so let's fix this while we're at it. So, this is going to tab into place correctly now. Let's get the wing in. It's going to require some force. Alright, let's see if I can do this without wrecking the figure. Dang, that's a tight fit. It's a hard plastic too. Alright, so I know I got to fix this. I want to fix it now. I don't want to fix it later. So, and I'm trying to figure out the safest way to do it without damaging the figure. Because I kind of just want to take pliers to it and just like vise it in and just clamp it down. But I'm afraid I'm going to wreck her chest. So, yeah, it's pissing me off. Dude, that sucks that mine was defective. You spend like you spend a lot of money on a nice playset with an exclusive figure, and then it comes wrecked. All right, so yeah, I'll figure this out somehow. But yeah, I got to get this pin properly placed into the hole here. Kind of wish this would just screw in, but it's not going to. All right, let's see if I could try fixing this on camera real quick. What I could do is maybe just slightly make it a little bit wider. Not so much that the pin's just going to fall out, but enough that it's going to hold it in place. Give me a second. Okay, so I moved her head. Oh, God, this is a tight fit. It's not going to go in all the way. Yeah, I'm going to have to drill it out a little or something. Just so I can get it in properly. Or I'll take care of that later. All right, so for now, let's take a look at this. I'll put this head back on later, too. So, we have the Sorceress here. As you can see, they're pretty much identical. But this has the older kneecaps, and I hate the older kneecaps. They look very unnatural. They're too wide. Whereas this one, it does a better job of shaping the knees out more naturally, especially when you're looking at it from the front. From the profile view, the knees look better on this one also. And it looks terrible when you bend them because they overshoot the lower part of the leg, so you get this like hard edge popping off. Whereas when these bend out, the curve is a little bit more natural and they conform better to each other. So it's nice that Mattel went back and redesigned the knees. Alright, so if you're wondering what the difference is between these two figures in terms of the fiction, right, because I had to do my homework on this. So for me, I grew up on this version of the Sorceress, and this is the one I saw in the cartoon. I think I was doing some research online, and people said that the White Sorceress, she's known as, I think, the Temple of Darkness Sorceress, and this is the one that you saw in the mini comic books from the 80s. So to get a little bit more official, I hunted down the bios from both figures that we got with the Classics collection. So these are the Classic collection figures, the Classics that Maddie Collector was doing some years ago. So here is the bio for the cartoon colored Sorceress. Her real name is I'm not sure if it's pronounced Tilana or Tilana. Or I'm just gonna say Tilana. That looks better. It rolls off the tongue easier than Tilana. All right. So growing up in a small Eternian village, Tilana helped defend her people from a horde scout ship that discovered her planet on a magic locating mission. Recognized for her loyalty, courage, and wisdom, the current aging sorceress chose Tilana to take up her title and defend Castle Grayskull's secrets for the next generation. So it sounds like the Sorceress is a title that's passed on. So it sounds like this Sorceress, before she was a Sorceress, sounds like she was just maybe like a normal girl. And then, if I'm reading this correctly, it sounds like the current Sorceress of her time passed on the title and powers, I think, to this girl here. So during her reign as Sorceress, Tilana not only cast a spell to clone the sword of He, which I'm assuming is the He-Man Power Sword. She was also cloned by Skeletor, who desired a magic-wielding bride to pass on his legacy. So with the help of Man-at-Arms, Tilana saved the cloned child, and it was through her undying love and devotion to this baby girl that Tilana gave up her to Man-at-Arms, awaiting the day when her daughter would become the new Sorceress and guardian of Castle Grayskull. Okay, so, alright, for those of you who know that the fiction really well, correct me in the comments below. So from what I'm gathering from this story, right, so this version of the Sorceress, originally she was a girl that grew up in a village, and there was already a Sorceress who was the guardian of Grayskull. And if I'm reading this bio correctly, there was a Horde scout ship that was on a mission to discover magic. And they discovered Eternia, and the current Sorceress, I guess, fought them off. But at the same time, she needed someone to carry on the tradition of being the Sorceress. So she gave this girl from the village named Tilana the new title of Sorceress and the powers. So this is the girl from the village who eventually became our Sorceress that we know. But then she was cloned by Skeletor because Skeletor wanted a bride who had magic. So he cloned the Sorceress. But the clone of the Sorceress ended up being a little girl, which is crazy because Skeletor is an adult. So he clones the Sorceress, and then that clones a baby girl. But then the baby girl who's supposed to eventually marry Skeletor gets, hidden away by the Sorceress and Man-at-Arms. So that explains why Teela it's almost like a Jango Fett, Boba Fett kind of deal. She's the daughter of the Sorceress, but a clone of the Sorceress. It's not like the Sorceress and Man-at-Arms hooked up and conceived the child. It sounds like Teela is actually a clone of the Sorceress. So even though that Teela's raised by Man-at-Arms, the Sorceress is waiting for the day when Teela's old enough to grow into the role and become the next Sorceress, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm gathering when I read the bio here. So if I'm getting my details confused, just feel free to correct me. So that explains this version of the Sorceress. So the Sorceress that we know is that she was originally a village girl, and then she took on the title of the Sorceress after the previous Sorceress, bestowed that title upon her and the powers or whatever. So it's almost kind of like generational thing. Seems like every generation has a Sorceress. Every generation has its own He-Man. So the Sorceress we know is our generation's Sorceress, and there was one that existed before her. Alright, so back to this figure, the all-white one. This sorceress is known as the Temple of Darkness Sorceress, the heroic guardian of Castle Grayskull. I'm not sure if I'm going to read this out loud. I'm just going to like look over it real quick. Alright. Okay, I'm just going to read it anyways. All right, to safeguard the power of the universe after their secret bargain with Trolla, Grayskull's elders transfused the power from the Sword of He into a giant orb in which they hid deep within the abyss of below Castle Grayskull. There, Grayskull's widow took upon the lonely duty of sorceress, guarding the castle to prevent the power from falling into the wrong hands. For 5 million millennia, her students continued the role while the castle faded from memory into legend. At the end of the Great Unrest, a new sorceress named Talana helped the remaining elders combine their wisdom to tap into Eternia's magical secrets, with the orb creating a new unified force which would be called upon as the power of the Grayskull, named for the castle which it hid in. Okay, so I don't know if these two different versions are actually intertwined in the same universe, or if this is a completely different universe altogether. Like I said, this figure represents the comic book fiction, or the mini fiction. But there's some similarities, like the name of the character is still the same. I don't know in terms of like the complete background history. But yeah, I don't know. I'm confused, and I'm having a hard time concentrating because my OCD is this waiting until I could end this video so I could fix this. So yeah, let's wrap this video up. I'm going kind of nuts. So yeah, do you need this figure? I'm going to say 100% yes. If you're like me and you grew up in the 80s, chances are you're more into the Filmation cartoon than you were into the mini comics. I could see the mini comics being more important to a collector, that as you grow up in time, you become more involved with the fiction. So in that sense, you might have a deeper appreciation for the white costumed version of the character. But if you're like me and you grew up in the 80s Filmation cartoon, this is your Sorceress. But I think if you have both, it's a cool like history lesson, because you have two different versions, and each different one represents a different form of the fiction. But if you're only going to have one Sorceress, this is the way to go. So yeah, she's a must-buy. If I had to rate this figure numerically, an easy 8 out of 10. They corrected the knees, the color choices, and the color scheme is beautiful. So yeah, it's a great figure. It's well worth the purchase. Okay, so this video is running way too long. Let's wrap this up. Once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will talk to you at the next one. Later.